All right, ready to dive into this deep dive on getting organized.
Absolutely.
You sent over some excerpts from Transform Your Space. It's easy, actually, master organizing tips. And honestly,
Yeah.
I have a feeling this is going to be one of those surprisingly, eye-opening things.
I think so, yeah.
You ever get that feeling when your space is cluttered and then suddenly your brain feels just as messy?
Oh, totally.
Like it's connected, you know?
Yeah.
This book really gets into the psychology of that and how it impacts us, I think, way more than we realize.
And what's fascinating is it goes way beyond just the look of an organized space. It's almost like clutter has this invisible weight on our minds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The book talks about how a cluttered environment actually competes for our attention.
Really?
Yeah. Making it harder to focus and even impacting our mood.
So it's not just me then. My messy desk really does make me feel less productive.
It's not just you. And this isn't just anecdotal. The book actually mentions research showing a real link between decluttering and, believe it or not, positive mental health.
No way.
Yeah. They dive into the neuroscience behind it.
Get out.
Yeah. Apparently, when we're surrounded by clutter, our brains release stress hormones like cortisol.
Oh, no.
So getting organized, not just about aesthetics.
Right.
It's actually a form of self-care.
Wow. I never thought of it that way. Okay, so I'm convinced. Decluttering. Good thing.
Definitely.
But where do we even start?
So they introduced that classic keep, toss, donate method,
Yeah.
but with an interesting twist to it.
Okay.
You know how sometimes we hold on to things for sentimental reasons,
Yeah.
even if we haven't looked at them in years?
Yeah, for sure.
The book suggests actually asking yourself, what purpose does this item serve in my life right now? It's about being honest with yourself about what you truly need, what you use, and, letting go of the rest.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's so easy to get stuck in that trap of, but I might need this someday.
Exactly.
Okay, so I've purged the clutter.
Okay.
Now what?
All the fun part.
The book talks about storage solutions, which always feels a bit intimidating, to be honest.
Oh, you hear that?
I don't know where to begin.
Yeah. But this is where it gets fun, right?
Okay.
They have some really creative, budget-friendly ideas.
Okay.
Think repurposing everyday items, turning wine crates into shelves,
Oh, okay.
using mason jars for storage, that kind of thing. It's all about thinking outside the box.
I love that. Okay, but what about those of us working with limited space? My tiny apartment is already bursting at the seams.
You've hit on a common challenge, and the book actually dedicates a whole section to small spaces.
Oh, good.
One of the coolest takeaways for me was how much our perception of space, it's visual, They talk about how our eyes naturally scan a room horizontally. So by utilizing vertical space, think tall bookshelves, wall-mounted storage, you're actually tricking your brain into perceiving the space as larger, less cluttered.
That is so smart. I never thought about it like that. I'm always trying to cram things onto horizontal surfaces.
Yeah, it's a common mistake. And it's not just about practicality. It can add a cool design element to your space too.
Right.
They have all these great ideas for incorporating wall-mounted shelves, pegboards, even hanging plants to create the illusion of more space.
Okay, I'm definitely trying that. This is why I love these deep dives. So many aha moments.
So speaking of aha moments,
Yeah.
get this. The book doesn't advocate for being perfectly organized all the time.
What?
In fact, they dedicate a whole section to the unexpected benefits of a little mess.
Wait, seriously? Are you telling me my mountain of papers might actually be helping my creativity?
Hear me out. Apparently, there's a growing body of research suggesting that a bit of controlled chaos can actually be conducive to creative thinking. They even mention folks like Steve Jobs, Albert Einstein, both known for their, shall we say, unconventional workspaces.
Really?
Yeah.
Get out of town. Einstein was a mess. Okay, this is making me feel way better about my own creative chaos. But seriously, how do we find that balance between productively messy and straight up disaster zone?
Right. It's a fine line.
Yeah.
The book actually encourages you to think about it on a spectrum.
Okay.
So on one end, you have hyper-organization,
Okay.
which, can sometimes stifle creativity.
Yeah.
Then on the other end is complete chaos, which, let's be real, for most people, that's overwhelming, unproductive.
Right.
So it's about finding that sweet spot in between that works for you.
So how do we figure out where we fall on that spectrum? I mean, I don't want to use Einstein did it as an excuse for a messy desk forever.
Right. Well, they suggest paying attention to how your environment makes you feel. Do you feel energized and focused in a tidy space? Or does a little clutter actually help your creative juices flow? It's about self-awareness and finding what works best for you. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
That makes sense. So let's say I've I've figured out my ideal organizational style, right?
Yeah.
How do I actually make it stick? Life has a way of getting messy, literally.
Oh, it does. That's why they really emphasize building those consistent habits rather than just doing these big, overwhelming decluttering overhauls,
Yeah.
Like they actually suggest dedicating just 10 minutes each day to tidying up.
10 minutes, that feels doable. I can handle that. I probably waste more time than that just looking for my keys every morning.
And that reminds me, the book has a great tip about that. They're big proponents of creating like designated spots for everyday essentials.
Okay.
So keys always go in a specific bowl by the door.
Right.
Mail goes in a tray, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It sounds really simple, but it really streamlines your routine.
It's funny because it does sound simple, but I am so guilty of just dumping my keys wherever when I walk in the door. No wonder I can never find them.
We've all been there. But seriously, those small changes can make a big difference. And they also talk about the power of labeling, sorting, and stacking.
Mm.
These systems are like Organization 101.
Yeah.
But they're game changers even for people who don't consider themselves organized.
Okay, I'll admit, I do love a good label maker. But tell me more about how these techniques actually transform a space.
Well, labeling isn't just about making things look pretty,
Right.
although it does that too.
It does.
It's about creating a clear, easy-to-follow system.
Right.
So you always know where things are,
Right.
which saves you time and frustration.
For sure.
And sorting goes hand in hand with that, Group similar items together like cleaning supplies, office supplies, winter gear, and suddenly finding what you need is a breeze.
Yeah. It's like giving everything in your home a designated address.
Exactly.
No more wandering around aimlessly.
And then there's stacking,
Okay.
which is essential for maximizing space, especially in smaller homes.
Yeah.
They give tons of examples of how to use bins, baskets, shelves, even just stacking things neatly to make the most of your space.
Okay, this is all starting to feel very manageable. I'm realizing that organization doesn't have to be this big, overwhelming thing. It's really about these small, consistent actions that add up over time.
You got it. It's a journey, not a destination, right?
Right.
And speaking of journeys, the book also touches on like the whole minimalism trend,
Yeah.
which I know can feel kind of intimidating for some people,
Yes.
but they have a really interesting take on it.
Yeah, I've always been curious about minimalism, but I could never imagine getting rid of most of my stuff.
I hear you. But they emphasize that minimalism isn't about deprivation. It's about intentionality.
Okay.
It's about surrounding yourself with things that you truly love, you use, and like letting go of the things that are just taking up space,
Yeah.
both physically and mentally.
So it's not about living in a stark white box with 3 shirts to my name.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
But it's about like being mindful of what you bring into your life.
Okay.
Like, do you really need another sweater?
Oh.
Or is it just going to end up shoved in the back of your closet, adding to the clutter? It's about questioning those impulses and making conscious choices about what adds value to your life.
This is really making me rethink, like, my whole approach to organization.
Yeah.
I always thought I had to be, like, all or nothing.
Right?
But I love this idea of being more intentional about what I bring into my space.
It's a real shift in mindset. And it actually ties back to what we were saying earlier about, like, the mental health benefits of decluttering.
All right.
When you let go of the physical clutter,
Yeah.
it's amazing how much lighter you feel, like
Yeah.
mentally and emotionally.
Yeah.
Like clearing out space for new ideas and experiences.
It's so true. I've definitely noticed that. Like, when my space is cluttered, my mind feels cluttered too. It's almost like I can't relax or focus on anything else until I've, like, tackled the mess.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that weight we were talking about.
Right.
That invisible burden that clutter puts on our minds.
Yeah.
When you clear that away, you free up so much mental energy.
Okay, I am totally on board with this whole organization thing now.
I love it.
I'm feeling inspired to, like, tackle some projects.
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah.
Remember, it doesn't have to be this big, overwhelming thing.
Right.
Even small changes can make a big difference.
Like finally organizing that one junk drawer that's been driving me crazy.
Exactly. Or setting aside, 10 minutes each evening to tidy up the living room.
Right.
It's about building those small habits and celebrating the wins along the way.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive.
It has.
I feel like I have a whole new perspective on organization.
Good.
It's not just about aesthetics.
Good.
It's about, like, creating a space that supports, my well-being
Yeah.
and allows me to, like, live my best life.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about creating a space that reflects who you are and how you want to feel.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with this. What one area in your life could benefit from a little more organization right now? Is it that overflowing closet, that stack of papers on your desk? Imagine how much lighter you'll feel when you finally reclaim that space. Remember, you don't have to do it all at once.
You got it.
Start small, Be consistent, and most importantly, make it your own. Happy organizing.